What's going on, Vapor fans? Today we're going to be talking about the MVP4 by Innokin. So this is a 4500 mAh 100 watt device. It has 2 amp quick charge on it, and it works both as a vaporizer and a power bank. So is it really that good, and it's all that's cracked up to be? Well, you're just going to have to stay tuned to find out. So we begin here with the dive cam, and here we go. This is the packaging for the MVP4, right? To my knowledge, the MVP4, the Scion tank, and the box mod can be sold separately. So I have them, together as in one kit. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. Very nice packaging. I really dig the clean look of these things these days with Innokin. Really come a long way with this stuff. So here's the box mod itself. Okay, nice matte finish, right? For those of you who are, really big on fingerprint magnet, right? So this one, it doesn't have any of that. I like the edges. The edges are very, very nice. You know why? Because if you own other box mods that kind of have like, sharper, rougher, unfinished edges, kind of like, something like this thing, as you use it, it does kind of dig into, the back of your knuckles, so this one doesn't at all. It feels rather nice, actually, for something that looks so squarey and boxy. It doesn't dig into you or anything. So recently I've noticed that a lot of companies out there, they want to do both, we strive for innovation, and then sometimes going in different directions and stuff, especially from this show that's always looking at things from a PowerPoint perspective. A lot of box mods these days are going for that power bank function, right? The E-Leaf iStick 200 quick charge, but that one required a separate accessory in order for you to do so. So I like what they did over here, even though I don't quite agree with the function. Now, I'm going to talk about why later, okay? So you do have the USB port, the large USB port over here, so that this item, when it's fully charged, can charge other items, as well as take a charge itself in the front. So I dig that about this. Okay, instead of having this as a separate component, it was built into the box mod, so that, like, okay, fine, there you go, nice and simple, clean, and it's just always there for you. But before we go any further, let's talk about what's inside of the box. So underneath the foam of the box over here, we got a couple of stickers. We have the user manual over here, the USB cable, the Scion tank, a spare coil, the glass tank band over here to help protect your tank. I don't know if this actually works. Has anybody actually dropped anything on the band with the glass and like it didn't shatter? I wonder if that actually works, but I've never really dropped my tank on the middle of the street, so I wouldn't know. Anyways, little baggie over here with a whole bunch of spare O-rings, and then the Scion tank itself. The first thing that I noticed was the 510 pin over here. I'm gonna turn it this way. I'm gonna show you guys. Ooh, it's kind of in there, isn't it? It's not really protruding or anything, and that bugs me. That bugs me a lot. Let me focus in more for you guys to see, and then let's give it a turn like so. See that? It's 510 pins in the center. The positive pin, in my opinion, should always be slightly protruding, okay? It should never be like, all the way in there. Mainly because you won't be able to use this atomizer on a lot of different other products. You really have to make sure, because the threading over here is actually going to be the negative, and then the positive pin is going to have to dig in, actually sit inside over here in order to make this connection, and a lot of mods are not like that. Okay, so does this thing pair well with the MVP4? Yes, absolutely, to the point where I would almost say that it is they pair together almost in a proprietary way. It's kind of like this is just meant for that. I would not go out of my way to try to see if it works with anything else, okay? Because it's just a little bit dangerous to do that when you're dealing with 510 connections that are not protruding. Definitely you want to try them out on only regulated devices, because that way you're protected. So Moving on over here, huge airflow system. Okay, I kind of dig that, right? So this thing opens up, closes very smoothly, very nicely. The next thing is the mouthpiece over here. Okay, we can't say drip tip anymore because you really don't drip through these things. So the mouthpiece is this huge chuff tip, right? Only downside to this is, I know there's a lot of people out there, at least half of people out there who buy atomizers and stuff prefer to use their own, right? And this one, you just kind of stuck with the one that's given for you. In a way, for me, okay, I like the idea sometimes. Sometimes I do enjoy the idea of not being able to use your own drip tip because it's more suggestive of the initial design of this tank. Like whoever designed this tank, he wanted you to vape it this way and not use, another different kind of drip tip that might change the turbulence or the diameter of the vape that's coming out of the device. Okay. So many times it's more than just aesthetic reasons, as well as I like the idea that this whole thing is Delrin, so it is going to do a lot of heat dissipation, and heat dissipation is very big in my book. The next thing that we're going to look at is the coil itself. So I'm going to open this up and show you guys the engine inside. So triple coil system, right? My biggest concern about triple coil systems is two things. Number one, how much juice you need in order to get this thing going first before you even fill the tank, right? And number two, how hot this thing gets. Smaller devices, bigger coils, this thing is just all coil. We want like larger devices and then, coils that are set up in a way so that like we could dissipate heat. You're never going to get rid of like 100% residual heat from the coils to the juice, right? But we should do our best to try to reduce it as much as possible so that the juice stays fresher inside of the tank for longer periods of time. Does that make sense to you guys? So the triple coil system over here, okay, a lot of people doing it. Sometimes I feel as if like I'm not sure if they're going into the idea of innovation or not, or one company tried it and then other companies were like, well, they did it, so me too, me too, me too. They have it, we need to have it as well. So granted that triple coils are going to produce a lot of vapor and produce a lot of flavor, I just don't feel as if it's the most efficient way of going about doing it. It's a way of achieving it, but I think it's going to be super inefficient, and this thing is going to be quite the juice guzzler. So back to this little guy. Okay, I could tap it once to let you know that it needs 3 clicks on. So 1, 2, 3, and then it'll do its little light show. Company logo over here, and right now it's in temperature control mode for stainless steel. Its TC mode supports all the standard TCs, nickel, titanium, stainless, and what happens is, when you initially put your tank on, okay, before it says no atomizer, once it detects the atomizer, it'll ask you if it was the same coil, and then you could toggle, it's nickel, titanium, stainless, or wattage control. Okay, so I'm just going to stick with the wattage control over here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is show you guys how to toggle between the different functions. Okay, what we're going to do is hold down the left and right at the same time. It shows you the ohms, the volts, and then the puff counter. Hold it down for long enough, then it's going to switch from left hand to right hand. Okay. Then we're going to hold down the bottom button first. Be sure to hold down these buttons first, because if you hit the fire button, it's just going to start cooking. Okay, so we'll hit the plus button and then the fire button at the same time, right? Then what happens is that it's going to go over to the temperature control mode, like so, in the nickel right now. Okay, as I continue to hold it down, it'll start to toggle. See that? Stainless, titanium, stainless, and then back to wattage mode, like so. Okay, so I'm gonna go over to the temperature control mode over here, right? And then let's change the settings. So right now I'm in Celsius mode, and then holding down like so. okay, allows me to change the temperature in increments of 5, right? Now, what happens is that to get from the Celsius over to the Fahrenheit, you have to go through the round robin. So if I hold up like this, and then I keep going, and then it'll max out at 315. Once I pass that, then it'll go into the Fahrenheit. And then from the Fahrenheit, I could toggle all the way up to 600 degrees. Okay, so now I'll hold down the bottom and then the power button immediately. Okay, so down and then the power button, and see how the 100 watts is flashing right now. I could toggle the 100 watts down in increments of 5. Okay, so we could go as low as 25, I believe, before round robins again, right? So 25 is the lowest, right, and then 100 is the highest. So here's a couple of looks of the device itself. It's nice and slim, small. I'm kind of surprised that it's 4,500 milliamp hours in here, because it looks like a very, very slim device, and it's not heavy at all. You know, very impressed with the battery technology in this one. So here's the angle from it from the top, and this is the 510 connection. It's not really spring loaded, not really, you know what I mean? It is a little bouncy, it'll fight you or whatever, but it's not quite spring loaded. All right, guys, so we're over here at the screen cap, and what we're doing is that we're going to test for the maximum power of this little sucker. Okay, and let's find out if you're actually getting what you paid for, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to bring this closer to the camera over here, and then we're going to focus a little bit. Okay, nice. So I'm going to turn this on like so. I have this thing at 100 watts, which is maxed out all the way, and the Scion tank sitting on it. So this is the, you know, recommended coil, right? So let's see if you actually get 100 watts out of this thing. So what it's reading right now is that the resistance is at 0.48, right? 0.49, excuse me. So let me try to get that as clear as possible for you guys to read. All right, so 0.49, and then when I fire this, 7 volts. Okay, right. So over at the screen cap, we have 7 volts, and then the resistance is at 0.49. If we calculate over here, we get 100 watts exactly, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to fire it again, right? This is one continuous shot, and let's see exactly how many volts we really get. 7.02. So I'm not even going to go over to the other you know, calculator, because really, like, putting in 0.02 over, you know what I mean, is really not going to make any difference or whatever. So indeed, this guy really is what it's calibrated for, and really delivers exactly what is promised, as always with Innokin products. So thumbs up here. So let's come back up to the FaceTime, and let me tell you my final thoughts on this. Pretty good, pretty good. Vape is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the greatest flavor, but flavor is pretty decent as well, and vapor production is great. However, it's exactly what I was saying before about it. Triple coil systems, it's gonna do the job, but it's gonna be pretty inefficient way of doing it. So I did fill it up all the way, and I took about maybe, you know, anywhere between like 10 to 12 pulls, and I'm already losing out on a lot of juice over here. Okay, couple of things to know about filling the tank. All right, what happens is that you have to screw this thing back on, right? And there's going to be a pressure system, because what happens is that you unscrew the mouthpiece, and then there's huge ports for you to fill your juice, which is very convenient. But once that happens over here, okay, I would recommend putting this on just a little bit, leave the it open, and then sealing it the rest the other way around over here, so that air pushes to the coils. Okay, for refilling reasons, you don't have to do this the first time, because you're if anything, the pressure system would help to prime the coils. Does that make sense? When the cotton is dry on the inside, right, and then you just fill this thing with juice, hurry up and put this on, and then it'll push a little bit juice into the coils, so that, like, okay, it's going to be ready to vape very quickly. But if you are reloading this thing, right, then I would suggest that once you put more juice in there, spin it up just like a little bit, so that it's not going to leak. Flip it around right away, and then continue, so that it's more air pushing against it instead of juice. If not, then it will come out the bottom of the airflow. Okay, so yeah, keep that in mind. Pressure systems. uh, the next thing, okay, is that you guys know I'm not a crazy vapor. I don't challenge myself every day or whatever. I find that 50 watts on this thing, this is a 100-watt device, right? 4,500 mAh, and this is a 100-watt device. So what happens is that I don't like when things are calibrated instead of, especially when there's a tank pairing and it forces you to fire this thing too high, okay? I find this one reasonable. It's reasonable, okay? I need to personally vape this thing at about 65 watts in order to get great flavor and clouds out of it. Of course, we could go a little bit hotter for, you know, you guys out there who prefer a much warmer vape, but I think 65 watts is pretty reasonable on this device for most vapors. The next thing is that it's up to you. You guys tell me, is this a little bit annoying? It's a little loud. If I adjust the airflow a little bit, same, pretty much. I find it to have like kind of like a wind scratchy sound or maybe it's just my device and others aren't doing it, but the one that I have is kind of doing that. So um overall, the tank itself, shockingly, right? Shockingly, after all the chain pulls that I did, it's warm. It's almost hot. It's almost reasonably hot, but for a triple coil system, and you know, after we reviewed the Mellow 300 tank, the Mellow 300 tank was ridiculously hot. This thing is bearable. It's bearable, and you could chain vape on this. So kudos to Scion tank for a vape and go system. Yeah, not bad. Mouthpiece is very comfortable to use. I don't find any spit back at all. And yeah, guys, would I recommend this one? Normally, I don't recommend too many starter kits, but this one, on the power profile, it promises exactly what it is. It's tuned and calibrated very nicely. It fits small. It's, you know, it's not exactly ergonomically shaped, but it still is comfortable in your hand. For many of you out there, I'm pretty sure you're going to love the finish of this. And for anybody who really is looking for that power bank feature, it's here in the back. Now, on the power bank feature, I really want to talk about this thing, okay? Guys, leave me a message in the comment below about the power banking, right? How many of you guys really care about this thing? I understand the Marine inside of all of us that, you know, wants to be prepared for anything, right? So, you know, just in case my phone died, or whatever. But for most of my friends and people that I've interviewed and spoke to or Reddit, whatever, they're always talking about, like, how can I get more power out of my phone into my vape rather than the other way around? You know what I mean? For most of us, I don't think many of us are too far from civilization at any given time, right? So normally what happens to me is that, like, if my phone is dying or whatever, I don't really panic or anything. I'm just like, oh, well, I guess I'm not checking my messages anytime soon. And then I charge it when I get home. You know, I don't really panic that much. But when my vape is dying and I have nothing else, I panic, you know? And I mean, how about you? Do you panic more? I guess the question is, do you panic more when your vape is dying or when your phone is dying? Okay, so that will kind of determine whether or not, like, this is truly innovation towards vaping devices. Okay, so it's a good question to think about. So I hope you guys found this episode a little more thought-provoking. As we always say here on PVA, question everything, do your homework, vape clever, my friends. Take care, everyone.